Welcome to Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak, now brought to you by the Internet News Network, Screenworks Entertainment, Atlanta Mix 108, Smooth Jazz Cleveland, and, of course, Dove and Dragon Radio. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and join me for all the new interviews. Bye. Welcome to Dove and Dragon Radio, brought to you by the Internet News Network. I'm here with author Eric Malikyte. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you have several books I'm looking at. A little bit of cyberpunk, dark fantasy, cosmic horror, a little bit of everything in here, as it looks like.
That's absolutely true. I've published 4 books so far, and I've got a number of free entry, novellas out as well in those 3 genres. And really the cosmic horror stuff links in with the dark fantasy. It's sort of like a shared multiverse.
That sounds wonderful. So which one was the first book or novella or whatever you wrote first?
The first book that I published, not that I wrote, because no one's going to see the first book I wrote. It's absolutely awful. But the first book that I published was Echoes of Olympus Mons. Mm-hmm. It's a cosmic horror story set on Mars, surrounding 2 students that live on Mars, and they're a part of sort of like a corporate conglomerate that work-study program. Okay. And they invent a camera that images dark matter. And once they see what the camera is imaging in the dark matter, mm-hmm. things start to look back at them, and bad things start to happen.
Of course. If you have dark matter to start with, anyone that does know science fiction, dark matter is bad to begin with. So if you have something staring back at you in dark matter, all heck is going to run loose in this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought of, what are the different, because that book was very much inspired by not only movies like Alien and mm-hmm. But also H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. That's probably my favorite Lovecraft story, because I'm a sucker for ancient alien ruins in stories. Like I just eat that up. And I just thought it would be really cool to have like an entity that, or a life form that was maybe composed of dark matter or something like that, because we haven't really seen something like that before, I don't think, in fiction. There are energy beings here and there, but nothing with a sort of, if we twist quantum physics a certain way, maybe this could be possible. So I wanted to at least hint at something that could potentially be real, and thus make it that much more terrifying.
Exactly, because we have to have the science just right, and then we have to twist it just enough to make it interesting. And then we put our own demons and creatures in there as well.
Yeah. I've got a bit of the history with strange phenomena and stuff happening in my life. I'm a science advocate myself. Mm-hmm. I write for Top Tens, and now I write for Geo and Biographics as well. But it's really interesting because I have a very, very grounded approach to the way I look to my worldview. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in magic or anything like that, but I've had a lot of strange experiences in my day, in my 32 years on this earth. And I can't explain those things. I've seen things like shadow people. I've been on roads where I hear ghost footsteps,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So a lot of these experiences that I've had in my life that I can't quite explain, it influence some of the horror in my cosmic horror, because I want things to be relatable. And I assume that if, I've experienced things like this,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe the reader can also empathize with the characters that are going through similar things.
Oh, yes. I mean, we have so many unexplained things that happen in our lives as readers, as authors, as just human individuals. Not everything can be explained with science. We try, but not everything can be explained yet.
Yet. Yeah. Science is continually evolving and changing. So let's hope that someday maybe we'll have some answers to some of these questions, because
Mm-hmm.
that would be really cool and I could write more articles about it.
Oh, I know. We want the answers to, is there an afterlife? Is there actually ghosts? Is there, another dimension out there?
I'll tell you, I live in Northern Virginia now. I'm from California originally, but there's a place called Occoquan, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and it has some of the most entertaining ghost stories that I've ever experienced. And I used to live like 8 minutes away from the Occoquan River,
Mm-hmm.
and my old house that I moved from in Woodbridge to
Mm-hmm.
where I live now was super haunted. My ex roommate went through so much. Not a whole lot I can get into here because it's kind of terrifying,
Oh,
but
yes. I mean, those are the type of things we need to do on a midnight radio hour.
Yeah. So I won't get into it, but needless to say, some terrifying things have happened around me. Not so much anymore. Things have calmed down. It's pretty nice. I'm enjoying the lull in paranormal stuff right now.
But it gives you a lot of things that you can use in books later on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you don't have to be a believer to have things happen to you that you can't explain. But then you go back and go, you know what? All these things add up to a wonderful book or a movie.
Yeah, essentially. And my imagination, I have ADHD myself, so I have ideas for like 30 books right now. Just not enough time to write them.
I haven't talked to an author yet that doesn't have either ADD or ADHD. I'm guilty as well. So we have 30 books being wrote at any given time.
Yeah,
I'm actually in the middle of 4 at one time.
Yeah, I did that this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just starting to slow down and to start picking up my my article stuff again. And I've got a book coming out next month on the 10th.
Okay.
It's the follow-up to the book that we're talking about today, which is The Man Without Hands, Suleniar's Enigma, Book 1.
Okay, so we talked about that one. What's going into the one that's getting ready to come out?
That is actually Book 2 in the series, The Rise of Orzeth, and it's obviously the continuation of events that happened in Book 1. And I'm going through and improving copy edits right now, and it's pretty epic. So essentially what Suleniar's Enigma is, it's sort of a spin-off, if you will, of the Astralands Mythos series, which started with Mind's Horizon last year.
Okay.
And it follows a doomed people as they struggle against eldritch beings that are trying to wipe them out in sort of a pocket dimension or an alternate reality that than the one that we live in, as well as we're following somebody as he's attempting to unleash an eldritch being upon our Earth, which will have ramifications on his home world in this other dimension. But it's sort of like if Game of Thrones had an illegitimate Lovecraftian child, can't forget that part, with Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, I see where that's going. You would love to talk to my daughter about this because she can take things and twist them so well. And she is my 50 Shades of Grey mixed with Stephen King.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Stephen King. Actually, I love his Dark Tower series.
I love his books. I do. And the things that she writes with her creatures would make him cringe.
Yeah, I
I
have no
can
idea
already
how
see
he would
those
react to my
characters.
stuff.
I have not met Mr. King, but seriously, the stuff that my 17-year-old daughter writes, I'm like, and she's never been exposed to his books or his movies, which makes this even more interesting.
That is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a really kind of an anecdotal, funny story about Stephen King. It's more about his wife. But there was a manager at one of these stores because I used to run a chip route way back when.
Okay.
And one of the store managers at Harris Teeter, he was from Bangor, Maine. And he would talk about how he used to be like a manager at a bank, and he would be behind the desk most of the time, and she would come in and address him as corporate puppet. And he interacted with Stephen King a couple of times, but he had a very adversarial relationship with Tabitha King for some reason, and it was kind of a funny story.
Yeah, I can see how that would go. I mean, you put some of these authors in different settings, and the dialect that you get from that turns into something that is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, I can only imagine what King's personal life must have been like to inspire some of these things. I mean, he seems like a really down-to-earth person,
Mhm.
and like I love watching his interviews with George R. R. Martin.
Mhm.
I think one was released last year, and that kind of made my day when I saw it. Just
Yeah,
him talking about where his ideas come from, because he doesn't know.
yeah, no one knows what goes into his mind to create some of these. And then you have people that he'll tweet something, and then you have his followers go, do you even know what this book is about? Did you even read it? I'm like,
Yeah.
uh,
I've had some of those interactions myself.
yeah. It's like, you're talking to the author that wrote it. Yeah, we kind of know what we're talking about when we're discussing our book. Did you read it?
I mean, there's a certain amount of leeway when it comes to interpretation,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I mean, once you hit publish,
Mm-hmm.
the it's kind of out of your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, with self-publishing now, you can edit it if there are major problems, but I have a rule that I don't make major changes to a book that isn't, oh, I found a grammatical error or I found a typo on page 100 or something. Because it's not good for, say, if a reader enjoyed that version.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, one of my favorite books of all time, and it's the first book in the Chronicles of Amber series by Roger Zelazny,
Okay.
has two instances where the same line is repeated, because he wrote those on a old school typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that's where that came from, but it's in every single edition, and I only noticed it my third time through the book. Every book has errors, and you just got to deal with them sometimes. And I think if most people are not going to catch a minor tiny error, you might worry about that. But as long as you're not publishing something that's that is I'm looking for a delicate way to put it.
Horribly grammatically and spelling errors everywhere.
That'll work.
Okay, so I'm a different kind of author. My first book I actually have a letter wrote into each of my books where it says there are grammatical errors, there's misused words, and there's misappropriated spellings. This is intentional. This comes into play in book 8. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually have this because I had a reader go, your book needs to be edited. I'm like, no, it's not. Okay, so I went back, put in the letter. So, hey guys, this is intentional. You have to read the entire series to understand why this is intentional.
Hmm. That's an interesting concept. I mean, I did something similar toward the end of Echoes of Olympus Mons because the main character is losing his mind. So we decided to sort of break some rules to highlight that insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed.
Yeah, it's just like, okay. So we put little Easter eggs in our books, especially when we know it's going to be a series. And then no one notices, but everyone notices everything that we didn't put in the book.
Well, I think with that takes time. Those Easter eggs take time to discover, especially with books.
Mm-hmm.
And this latest dark fantasy book is ending up over 130,000 words. So I'm sure there's plenty of things for people to catch, however many years down the line.
Right. I'm going back through, I'm reading an Anne Bishop, which is dark fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
This is my third time reading the book and just came out in March. And I'm going through, oh, there's an Easter egg here. Oh, I'm getting that now. And I have to read her books 3 to 5 times to understand where she's going.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that we've moved towards a society that's relentlessly obsessed with productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are, and myself included, I'm struggling to find time to read because I need to work constantly, mm-hmm. especially since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has been affected.
Yes.
My girlfriend does not want me getting a normal job around people. She's like, mm-mm. So.
See, this is about as much peopling as I do. I can no longer be around people because of my anxiety.
Yeah. Going to the grocery store is excruciating now. I dread it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to avoid it at all costs. If I can last another day by eating that can of beans in my doomsday closet, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, I have to have my MP3 player while I'm in this grocery store playing something calming, or I can't go to a grocery store.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Especially walk into a Walmart and half of the people there are not wearing masks.
See, I'm not so much worried about the COVID. I'm worried about the people in general.
How so?
It's more being around just everyday people than I am worried about germs and getting sick and all of this other stuff. But that's me personally. I've also survived COVID once already. So I have a different view of everything.
So you were actually diagnosed with it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I have different views on everything. Well, look at me. I've been 3 strokes and brain surgery.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. I survived things.
You are a survivor. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my view on people doesn't come from germs and everything. If it's my time, it's my time. That's my view. I go on every day. Tomorrow's not promised. So what can I get done today? That's
my outlook on this whole thing is that the mask is there to help reduce whatever I have. Mm-hmm. I don't have COVID because I've been isolated. I've got COVID hair. Mm-hmm. I had a caveman beard before I jumped on this call. It's to reduce any chance that, reduce the chances of particles from my breath, mm-hmm. say if I was asymptomatic and I had COVID, from getting to you. And if you wear a mask, mm-hmm. that also reduces the risk as well. And I just think, personally, this is me, mm-hmm. that I would rather, be safe and secure in my knowledge that I'm doing everything that I can to protect other people around me and not infect them.
Mm-hmm.
But that, that's me. And I also have a strict code of believing scientists when they say that something is necessary too. But I mean, that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our different views, but at the same time, tomorrow I may get hit by a bus. That's me. I'm gonna knock on my desk right now. But I don't look for tomorrow. I look for today. But at the same time, I believe you wanted to do a reading on your story.
Oh, yeah, I did. I'm gonna do an excerpt. Mm-hmm. And I've been streaming on Twitch lately, improving my live readings. Ooh. A very nice person named Chris has been helping me out with some of that. And we're going to read from one of the villains chapters.
Okay. And this is from which book?
The Man Without Hands.
Okay.
I can begin when you're ready.
Go right ahead.
Chapter 4, Corey. The burn marks on the wall had been easy enough to paint over. He'd gone to the hardware store to look for the correct shade of white, but unfortunately only found shades that were slightly different from the original color. The result was a strange splotch about the size of a man on what had been Corey's wall. Learning to drive Corey's truck had been a challenge. After some trial and error down the long road outside his house, he'd figured out how to make the vehicle travel at a consistent pace. He could refine this skill further later. The doorbell rang. Kurt set down the brush on the rim of the paint canister and opened the door to find a familiar-looking pot-bellied sheriff standing there. His name was Luke, and looking at him, Kurt could almost feel the man's fist slamming into his emaciated gut again. "Good morning, Mr. Johnson," the sheriff said. It was still strange getting used to people recognizing him as this other man, a man that he had so recently incinerated. "Can I help you, officer?" Kurt said. "Well, there's been an explosion down at the old asylum in Dover. A very dangerous patient managed to escape in all the confusion. We were wondering if you'd seen him recently." The officer took out a photo and showed it to him. It was a security cam photo of himself, right before he'd fried the building's electronics with a pulse from his aura. "Haven't seen him since you rode off with him at the cabin." The sheriff cocked his head up. His eyes were the color of mud, but his stare was anything but dim-witted. "Is everything all right?" Damn it. He'd forgotten Corey's unique way of speaking. "Why wouldn't it be, officer?" he asked, trying on the accent. The sheriff's bushy eyebrow rose, as if there was a question hanging on the edge of his lips, on the edge of reason. "Mind if I come in for a bit?" Kurt felt his eye twitch. He really didn't have time to entertain this fool. "Sure." He led the officer into the living room where he'd killed Corey. "Would you like something to drink? I can put a coffee on. Or if you prefer something with a bit more bite, I got a whiskey that'll take the stains right off your teeth." "I'm on duty, Mr. Johnson. Coffee's fine." The sheriff stopped in the middle of the room, eyeing the large, freshly painted part of the wall. "What happened here?" "Oh, I had one of them old television sets there, and the damn thing caught fire the other night. Almost burned my whole damn house down, I tell you what." The officer nodded. Kurt left the living room, grabbed a couple of coffee cups from Corey's cupboards, and filled them with a fresh pot he'd brewed. If there was one positive thing he could say about this strange world plagued with an overabundance of Moscow, it was this strange, bitter, hot beverage. Kurt returned to the living room and handed the sheriff a cup. The man took a sip, and he could tell by the way the sheriff winced that it tasted like crap. Kurt liked his coffee strong. The sheriff set the cup down on the coffee table. "Are you certain this man hasn't contacted you?" "Officer, I don't even know what the fellow's name was. He could feel himself slipping further into the character of Corey Johnson. It was almost amusing. If I knew anything, well, hell, I'd tell you. Right, the officer sighed. It's just that this guy is dangerous, and the director of the correctional facility suspects that he had something to do with the explosion. I find that hard to believe. Kurt felt a tiny grin form on his face. Why exactly is that? Well, they don't give them patients much when they're locked up, right? Gotta be awfully hard to start a fire when you got a straitjacket tying you up. Not to mention the guy had no hands. I guess you have a point. The officer approached the door. Kurt opened it to show him out. Well, I guess that's all. If you think of anything that might help us locate him, you give us a call, you hear? I will, officer. Good luck. The door clicked shut. Kurt released the Sulin he'd been building in secret, just in case he had to kill the Moscow. There could be no missteps in this. But there was more to it than that. Kurt wanted to kill the man. After the indignities he'd put up with the first time they'd met, he felt he owed it to the officer. And that's as far as I'll go.
That is awesome. And I look forward to reading more. I said that, where can our listeners and our viewers find you?
You can find it on Amazon right now. And in about 3 months, it will be publishing wide as well. So if you're not a fan of the Zon, I understand. It will be going wide as well in about probably 2 months by now.
2 months?
Probably October, yeah. But The Man Without Hands is on Amazon right now. You can pick it up in print or Kindle format.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we won't have your wonderful voice reading it. So are you going to be doing an audio soon?
Oh, I absolutely will. And you can look forward to me not stuttering in it. Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing the audiobook. I'm a little swamped right now, but I've recorded some preliminary chapters, and I'm going to re-record those because I've gotten better performance-wise, and I'm gonna be redoing that. And
that is awesome because you definitely have the voice for it.
All right, thank you.
Well, I thank you for being on the show today. And for all of our listeners and our viewers, happy reading.
Thank you for having me.
And have a wonderful day, Eric.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.